A good Erev Shabbos, Parshat Ki Teitze. So whenever we come to a parsha, we listen to the first words with the extra excitement, thinking, okay, this is the message the 𝗟𝗦𝗕𝗘𝗧 told us that we need to hear in our lives. Right? It's not just something we're reading, it's something to live with. Every beginning is fresh. How is it going to be relevant to my life? Ki Teitze 𝗦𝗨𝗕𝗦𝗧. Right? When you go out to war. And we find these lashonos, right, of going out to war. We had it in last week's parsha as well, when you go out to war. Right? And for many people that are listening to this, myself included, where, on the most part, we're not going out to war. Here in Eretz Yisrael, there are a lot of people, when they see these psukim, it's something that they went through. They did it. Right? They did it. They have children that may be doing it right now. Right? For many of us, when we come to the psukim, we can tune out a bit. What does it mean that we go out to war? We're not going out to war, and we hope that we're never going to go to war. And even if there was a war, I'd somehow make sure I wouldn't be the one that goes out. So, what is this relevancy? So, the tzaddikim speak about this. How the 𝗟𝗘𝗧'𝗦 𝗦𝗨𝗕𝗦𝗖𝗥, the 𝗟𝗘𝗧'𝗦 right? That when we see a lashon of here of going out to war, right? There's the external war, and then there's the internal war. Right? The external war is when we have an external situation, right? We need to face, right? And it could be challenging. We have to fight. We can risk our lives. We can get hurt. But then there's the internal war inside of ourselves, right? Who's the 𝗧𝗦𝗕𝗦, the 𝗧𝗛𝗦𝗕𝗓, our lower self, those habits that we just find ourselves falling into, right? Especially now during Elul, you're doing a cheshbon nefesh. I know for myself, I know who my enemies are. They're right in here, and I need to work on them. So what's going on over here in this week's parsha? We're going out to war. So we spoke about this in the Beis Medrash program. Don't remember who it is that says this lashon. That when you find the lashon of milchama work, we see that it's connected to the word lechem. Right? The lashon of lechem we see right there in the middle of the word of milchama. And the idea as explained is that when it comes to our interaction with gashmis, our interaction with physicality, right, for eating, right, or the whole entire process of lechem, the whole entire process of work, of being involved, right, in the physical world, right, which for many of us, that's what we're doing the 6 days of the week. It's a milchama. What does that mean? It's a milchama. So you go to milchama, know what you're up against. Know you're going to fight. Understand who your enemy is. Come up with strategies. Be very aware. Don't lose awareness for a second because you can fall. And there's a truth to that. There's for sure a truth to that. Right? The 𝗦𝗘𝗧 was famous for saying, right, a chassid went over to him and one time said, they said that the 𝗧𝗛𝗧 you should see is like it's standing over you, with an axe, about to chop off your head. So he said, Rabbi, what happens if I don't see it? So the 𝗦𝗘𝗧 says, because he chopped your head off already. So there's an emes to that. There's an emes to that. But what we find in the teachings, right, of the Baal Shem Tov, right, tzvas emes speaks about it in this week's parsha, he speaks about it in last week's parsha, and all the Talmidim of the Baal Shem Tov, they point out a subtle point which is so important for us to integrate and for us to live with. Which is, we could get caught up in what we're afraid of. We could get caught up in the fact of, oh my gosh, this may happen and that might happen, and we need to make sure that we don't fall, and we don't do averos, and it's true, we need to create gedarim, we need to create fences, we need to make sure we find halacha giving us the guidelines on how to do that. But we also have to understand, what is it that we're even doing in the first place? What is this war about? As the tzvas emes explains, right, this war when a person's going out, right, and the soldier is capturing, right, the Isha Yefes Torah. It's a fascinating topic, right, to understand what's going on over here. Why is he capturing this woman? So the pnimius, right, in spiritual Torahs that are being shared, right, the Talmid of the Baal Shem Tov is that within this gashmius, right, within this physicality, right, there is this spiritual spark. There is this holy spark which is there. And just like in the parsha, when you capture that woman, right, there's a process of being able to take off, right, the shells, right? She needs to grow her fingernails. We can't just engage right away, right, with that woman. But there's a process before that needs to take place. So too when we're involved in gashmias, when we're involved in our physicality, where we also need to do it in a careful way. That's what halacha guides us to do, with the bracha, kosher food, the right environment. Of course, otherwise it's extremely dangerous. But we have to remember that what we're doing is a davar shebakdusha. We have to understand that what we're doing, why we're going out to war in the first place, is to be involved in Kiddush Hashem, is to be involved in ruchnius. Because if our whole entire attitude is just be careful you don't get shot, that doesn't motivate people. That doesn't drive people in a positive way. The 𝗧𝗦 𝗦 says it in a beautiful way in Parshat Shoftim, just the Torah in Taf Reish Mem Hey. And he speaks over there about a person going out to war and not being afraid, and remembering HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and remembering, Hashem always tells us whenever we go out to war, remember HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We remember Yetzias Mitzrayim, which for us is remembering our why. We're remembering what we're doing, remembering what the purpose of the Jewish people is, remembering what my personal mission is, to remember that when we go out. And then he goes on to say something beautiful, which ties into with the 𝗟𝗓𝗦𝗕𝗦𝗧 that each one of us are saying these days. He says, שכל המלחמה יתהלוכס הבר יסברך לטובתנו להוציא בלעם בפיהם. He says that you should know that the war itself, this war itself that you're involved in, is something that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted us to be involved in for our own benefit, right? Because there's some spiritual thing that we needed to pull out, and that's why he says, why remember Yetzias Mitzrayim? Do you know why we remember Yetzias Mitzrayim? Because remembering Yetzias Mitzrayim is a reminder of the fact that in any difficult, challenging situation that we face, and Mitzrayim was that paradigm place, we were put there for a reason. There was growth that came out of that place. We became who we were as a nation because of Mitzrayim. And therefore we thank Hashem for that. And he says, V'chein ch'tiv, Hashem yelachem lachem, haremez, shekol ha-melchama shebnei Yisrael mimenu yisparach, hem nishlachim l'tovasenu. Every war, every situation, every challenge that we face is there for our good. V'zeh shekasuv, we say in Tehillim, in L'david Hashem Ari, im takum alay milchama, if there's going to be a war that's going to surround me, b'zois ani botach, in this I put my trust. What's in this? Perish me-milchama 𝗧𝗛𝗦. David HaMelech was saying, b'zois ani botach, when that milchama surrounds me, and especially during Elul, as we try to prepare, and I know for myself, and this is relevant for you, right? Our kids hopefully are in yeshiva, right? And they're learning in school, and they're they're singing Me'ez Hashem, Shifti Be'ez Hashem. For many of us who are sitting most of our days at the office and maybe thinking we're fighting milchamas all day long, what does this have to do? How am I preparing for Elul? Maybe when Slichas comes around, I'll finally wake up. B'zois ani botach. B'zois ani botach. David HaMelech was saying, b'zois ani botach. Even in the milchama itself, this milchama of lechem, the milchama of parnasa ani botach, I trust and I know HaKadosh Baruch Hu that you're doing it for my good. And when we have this approach, then Be'ezus Hashem we can be matzliach in finding ways to connect with the HaKadosh Baruch Hu and fulfill our tafkid throughout our days at work. Have a good Shabbos.